If you're not familiar with the lending and insolvency world, the difference between fixed and floating charges over business assets can be confusing. However, a recent High Court ruling in the Avanti Communications case has brought some clarity, though it also introduces more flexibility and uncertainty regarding fixed charges. Let's break down the basic characteristics of fixed and floating charges. Fixed charges. When a borrower creates a fixed charge in favor of a lender, it immediately attaches to specific identifiable property, granting the lender proprietary rights to those assets. Despite this, the borrower retains ownership and possession of the assets. However, the lender has some control over what happens to these assets, preventing the borrower from freely disposing of them. Floating charges. A floating charge hovers over a pool of assets that can change over time until a triggering event causes it to crystallize. Crystallization occurs when certain events take place, such as the borrower going into liquidation, the lender taking control of the assets, or specified events listed in the security document happening. Before crystallization, the borrower is free to deal with the charged assets without requiring the lender's consent. This makes floating charges suitable for assets that fluctuate and circulate within a business, like stock and work in progress and cash in current accounts. Why does the type of charge matter? It becomes crucial to secured creditors, especially when multiple creditors hold security over a company's assets. In formal insolvency procedures like administration or liquidation, fixed charge holders have priority over floating charge holders. The proceeds from asset realizations are distributed in a set order of priority, with fixed charge debts at the top of the list. Floating charge holders will receive their share only after fixed charge debts, insolvency costs, preferential creditor claims, and the prescribed part, a ring-fenced sum to satisfy ordinary unsecured creditors, have been dealt with. Moreover, floating charges have a 12-month hardening period, which can extend to 2 years if taken in return for new funding. This means floating charges granted within the hardening period before insolvency can be set aside, whereas fixed charges are not affected. Now let's look at the key points in the Avanti judgment. Avanti Communications case revealed that a fixed charge doesn't necessarily require a complete prohibition on the borrower dealing with the charged assets. Specific exceptions to a total disposal prohibition, often negotiated by borrowers in finance documents, may still be consistent with the creation of a fixed charge. How does the Avanti judgment affect future lending strategies? As always, the outcome of court decisions depends on the case's facts. In Avanti, the assets in question were crucial to the business's infrastructure rather than freely circulating assets, leading the court to classify them as fixed charges, despite some degree of flexibility granted to the borrower. The judgment also provided detailed criteria for analyzing security documentation and categorizing fixed charge assets accordingly. This will likely have significant implications for structured and asset-backed finance arrangements that utilize industry standard forms. The Avanti ruling brings more flexibility to funding business assets, but also opens up possibilities for disputes, especially if security documentation is poorly drafted.